Well, we can get started. We'll just have people join as they come into the waiting room. Very excited to have a lunch and learn today. Today it's all around communication. We're going to talk about talking with your parents, with your staff, how you can manage difficult communication with parents, especially, and why it matters so much in your operations of your center. So very grateful to Wayne for being here today from ChildFriendly and grateful to ChildFriendly for making sure that these lunch and learns happen across our industry every other week. The goal is to provide you as operators with some insight into today communication, but just different topics that are very important to us as operators across childcare. And to have that practical insight and support from other operators and just have open discussion around those issues that we face day to day in our daily programs. So today is parent communication, building trust with families and children in childcare. We are going to kind of cover a little bit about why parent communication matters, some common communication challenges, how to build trust, those core principles around communication and building that trusting relationship, communication in action. So I had put together a few scenarios today around difficult conversations, how to have alignment within your team on communication, and a few operator tips. Wayne is going to cover a few communication tools that are really handy for you in managing apps within your center, getting those important notes out to parents and making sure that they're updated on their child's day with you. And then we'll leave time for questions if you have any. So first of all, why does parent communication matter? I put a quote on here about trust. Trust is the foundation of every strong family operator partnership. So that's really why communication matters. Communication builds trust. It builds confidence in you as a care provider. Families have their children with you for the majority of the day, and without communication, there is a huge gap of understanding of what the child is doing, how well they're being cared for, and really, what is actually going on in the child's life while the parent is away from them. So high quality communication reduces misunderstandings, builds loyalty and reputation, enhances child outcomes through collaboration. I put a stat on here that I thought was really important and it's really showcased how important this was. Families who feel in the loop are 70% more likely to recommend your services. So we are definitely seeing some shift in our market in childcare, depending on where you are in the country and even where you are in your own community. A lot of centers are reporting that the enrollment is becoming more competitive, and they really need to show parents why they should choose their center. So having parents recommend you, having parents feel confident in the services that you're providing will build trust, but will also build recognition and draw people to your program as well. Communication challenges. I wanted to put a few stats throughout this presentation today, but 89% of families prefer proactive updates over only hearing from educators when issues arise. I mean, that almost seems common sense, right? We would all love to hear positive things over negative things or over issues. But I think it's just as important to talk to parents about positive things during the child's day, especially at pickup and drop off, just having that communication with them, talking about basic things like, how the child was doing today or something fun that happened in the program, and sharing that insight, building that relationship will help them to really listen to you as a professional and trust you when you're saying things, around an incident or around an issue that has come up too. So here's some of the basic common kind of communication challenges that we see in childcare. Information overload versus not enough information. So finding that balance of what is kind of the key amount of information for parents to have without overloading them and without leaving a gap on having not enough information. Having emotional conversations, having a conversation with a family around some challenging behaviors or an incident that happens can definitely be triggering. You can feel emotional about it as an educator, especially if it was something that you were involved in. But the family can feel very emotional, even defensive at times about hearing kind of that, incident or behavior that maybe had an impact on their child. So really trying to remove that emotion from the conversation, have a professional conversation with families. But definitely, probably one of the key challenges in our industry is having those difficult conversations, facing the cultural and language barriers that we may have within our own selves, with our own language skills, but also on the other side with families who are maybe English second language, making sure that you recognize that you may need to have a different conversation, or make sure that there's an understanding, and that there isn't anything left, with gaps before the conversation is closed. And inconsistent messaging between team members. So we'll talk about this when we talk a little bit about alignment within your team. But it's really important to have consistency in messaging from all educators. Having a digital versus face-to-face balance. So most of us rely on programs, like ChildFriendly, to communicate and keep that ongoing feed throughout the day with families. But it's also so important to have that face-to-face balance as well. Um, and we'll talk a little bit about how we balance that too today. So some core principles around building trust. And I think when I was putting this together, I was thinking like, absolutely, this is so transparent for me to see, but sometimes we forget. And I think going back and just reflecting on what would really build trust for you in having a conversation with someone, and making sure that you're doing that when you're having communication with families and staff in your centers. So building trust, with transparency. So sharing openly, even when it's hard. We all have to have hard conversations with families, and sometimes you might think it's better to withhold that information. We'll just wait and see if we can deal with it in house and fix it. Parents want to know, and it makes it a lot easier if you have to have another conversation down the road, if you've already kind of had that transparency, that they know that this is happening with their child, and that you're all on the same team working together to support that child, even if it is a hard conversation and something that's challenging in the center. Having consistency, so having regular updates, whether it's like a daily update that goes out through an app, or you have a weekly update or a monthly newsletter, having those predictable, consistent updates that parents can rely on and they know that they're coming, will help to build that trust within your center. Having empathy is probably one of the biggest things in childcare, making sure that you're having empathy for the children and your staff, but also for the parents and their perspective. Had a conversation yesterday with an operator, and we were talking about how when you've had a challenging day, especially if you're having a challenging day with one specific child and you're feeling frustrated, how sometimes it can be, that frustration almost transfers over to the family when you're having those conversations. Having some empathy on that end and trying to understand, how the parents might be feeling, what's going on in their lives that, maybe makes this harder for them too, will definitely bridge the gap and help you to build a relationship with them. Responsiveness, having quick replies. So, you do want to have thought out replies as well, but if families are reaching out to you with questions, having a quick reply shows that you're on top of it, that you're paying attention, that you're taking care in that communication. So it's important to make sure that you are responsive with your communication with families. And then respecting that there are different and diverse families, different values, different cultures, and making sure that you are respectful in how you deal with families in your centers, that no family is exactly the same.
Confirm with Jason for a grand opening. Jamaica.
So communication in action, here's just a few examples. So daily touch points, really, embracing the warm kind of connection that you have with that family at the drop off in the mornings, making sure that you are making eye contact with the parents and the child, but that you are talking to the parents and you're greeting them as well. having, a daily update through whatever program you use, whether it's an app or it's a diary system, making sure that families have some connection with you throughout the day or at the end of the day, so they have an update of what you were doing, what the child was doing, how the day went. um, Hitting on those proactive updates, so sharing milestones and positive things that happen in, the life of the child in your care, not just the issues and challenges. um, Two-way channels, so inviting parents for feedback regularly, however you choose to do in your center. It could be in the form of like a survey, or just having like an open house kind of communication where they can come in and see your center one day, and talk with you, like a meet and greet. There's lots of different ways to do that. But making sure that the communication is going both ways and parents have that open door to come to you if they had questions or challenges. Scheduling those regular chats, not just at the time of enrollment or the time that there's an issue, but making sure that you have that connection and you're building that relationship with families in an ongoing way. And then consistent communication. So whether you do monthly newsletters or weekly updates or daily journals, having a predictable way that parents can rely on communication coming through. Difficult conversations. There's always going to be difficult conversations when you're working with children, and families and people in general. So coming into a tough conversation with empathy, being prepared, making sure that you're regulated when you go into this conversation, that emotion isn't driving the conversation, that you are calm and collective, you're ready to have that conversation with families. And just being ready that there could be some conflict, there could be some defensiveness, there could be some tough parts of the conversation, and knowing that you can handle that in a professional way. Not feeling afraid to bring someone else with you, whether it's your director, your supervisor, or another staff member, just to have that support, and to also make sure that that the communication stays respectful and open during that conversation. Make sure that you're prepared. So go into these kind of conversations with the facts, anticipate that the parents will have questions, and be ready to be able to answer those questions. If it's going to take you time to do that, that's okay too. And it's fair to say to families that you need, to book this time for tomorrow so that you can talk to the other staff and make sure that you're totally prepared. So you know exactly what happened. And like I said, you can answer those anticipated questions that may come up. Choose the right setting. So having tough conversations with families, at the front door, at pickup or drop off, is not the right setting. You want to make sure that it's private, that other parents and staff are not able to overhear the conversation, and that the children don't hear necessarily a conversation about them in front of them. I think that it's great to have that private kind of space for you to have a conversation with the family, without being overheard by anyone. Making sure that you have that calm and respectful demeanor going into that setting, and that you are in a regulated state to be able to have that conversation, and to lead with empathy. Remember that you guys are both working, the parents and you, working on the same team to support that child, and acknowledge that maybe they may be feeling a certain way about what has happened or whatever the conversation is going to be. So that they know that you're recognizing that this isn't easy for either one of you, and acknowledging how they could be feeling with the situation. Staying solution focused. So really making sure, I would say, before you go into this, that you have a solution in mind, or at least a plan forward in mind. Don't go in to a conversation where there's been an incident without having next steps ready to present to families. And stay really focused on that solution. So making sure that you collaborate with the family, that you talk to them about how you're going to, implement the solution in the center. If there's a portion of it that you're looking for their support at home with as well, make sure you have that ready so that you can outline it to the families as well. And follow up. So document, revisit, and show accountability. So it's great to, have a follow-up conversation. Maybe you set a deadline with the families to say that we're going to sit down again in 2 weeks, and let's talk about how, what progress has been made, how our plan has worked or hasn't worked, and kind of what the next steps will be. So setting up that next step, that accountability for yourself and for the family, not only builds that trust and that partnership with them, but it shows that you're a professional in this space as well. So your team alignment, I wanted to put another stat in here as well. No one loves parent complaints in our centers. And I thought this was a really great stat to have. Centers that actively train staff in communication techniques see a 25% reduction in parent complaints. So having staff that are confident in communication with families, that feel connected to the families, that understand how to communicate with parents, and how to have those difficult conversations and how to build that relationship with parents will absolutely impact the whole overall of your program. Internal communication is just as important with your team as it is with families as well. So making sure that you have tools to communicate with the staff in your center, whether it's like a daily briefing before the center opens, whether you use an app to have notes back and forth, but making sure that staff feel that there's an open line of communication, that they have the tools and the information they need for the day. Ensure that all your educators use consistent language. So how you describe incidents, language about the program, those kind of things should be very consistent, and that should be part of your training process with your staff, whether it's like a 2 to 3 minute elevator kind of speech that they have ready for questions that parents have about the program, about your learning philosophies and your structure and your day and that kind of thing. Whether they know what their role is and what the level of information is that they're able to communicate when there's been an incident, making sure that staff understand what kind of language and how to be consistent in using it. Provide ongoing professional development on handling sensitive conversations, cultural awareness, and tone. So not everyone comes into this field with, a background in communication. Not everyone is comfortable talking to parents and having those difficult conversations or even just basic conversations. Everyone comes into working with children and families with different capacities and backgrounds. So really making sure that your staff has a place, whether you're role playing some conversations or they have some kind of mentorship from some of your senior staff on how to engage with families and setting them up for success with some professional development and just support will go a long way in your center, including communication goals and team meetings to build accountability and shared ownership. So just like, with the families, bringing in that partnership and that team approach, you need to do that within your own team of educators as well. Making sure that there's shared ownership in the center, there's shared ownership in the program and the accountability to families and how you're communicating that. So having, team meetings where the staff understand what the philosophy is of your program, what your intentions are of the program, if they understand how to communicate with families, and if there has been an incident, maybe you have a kind of a meeting around it so that the staff are set up to be able to communicate with the families what has happened and talk about the solutions and whatever the next step is going to be. I have 3 scenarios for you today, and I'm totally available for you to put your hand up or turn your mic on if you have questions or you want to talk more around them. We can have questions at the end, but I'm happy to have questions as we're going through the scenarios today as well. So the first scenario, daily handover miscommunication. The scenario is that a parent picks up their child and hears from one educator that the child had a bit of a rough day, but another educator later mentions that the day went really well. The parent leaves confused and slightly worried. So the inconsistent language between the 2 educators would create a mistrust with the family and uncertainty of what actually happened in the program. Depending on how your program is structured, it is very likely that the child could have had a bit of a rough day in one part of the program and then had a really great day in the other part of the program. But making statements like this without any support to families is not the best way to communicate. So instead of saying things like their child had a bit of a rough day, using factual wording, talking about what you meant by that. Why was it a rough day? What did you observe? What actually happened? And really clarifying the emotional tone. So a few tricky moments, but overall a good day is clearer than saying extremes, like one went really well and one went really badly. making sure that, you give parents that communication. They don't know what happened. So leaving them with vague terms, um, like rough day and that it just went really well, is not setting up that successful, trusting relationship with you as an educator or an operator. Our second scenario, behavior conversation with parents. So a tough conversation. A child has been displaying challenging behavior during group activities. An educator approaches the parent at pickup, shares the concern abruptly, and the parent becomes defensive and upset. They feel blamed rather than supported. Um, so again, picking a time. Is this the right time to have this conversation with the parent? Is there a better time, a more private moment that you could have more of a professional conversation? Are you in the right state to be having a conversation if you're feeling, maybe dysregulated or frustrated by the situation still? Is your tone in the right kind of tone? Are you, it says concern, sharing the concern abruptly. So is the tone really reflecting the way you want to communicate with the family? So making sure that you're planning this conversation in advance, in a private setting, not rushed at pickup, where you have the parents' full attention, starting with empathy and positives. So we've noticed some challenges and we want to work with you to support the child. Offer observations, not judgment, and invite for the parent to give you input as well. Solutions, find solutions together. Maybe they've seen some of the same behaviors at home. Maybe they can give you some insight into the child that you didn't have. So really making sure that you're prepared and in the right state, and that the setting is the right type of setting to be having a conversation with a family around something like this. Our last scenario is a missed communication about an incident. So a child has a minor playground injury in the morning, an incident form is filled out, but the parent isn't informed until they discover a bruise at home. They feel blindsided and frustrated. Most of us, if you've been in this industry long enough, have had situations like this where it's busy and things get missed. Everything always seems to happen all at once in childcare and always at pickup time, right? So making sure that you have those clear internal procedures for how these kind of things, these incidents, these accidents are communicated. Who is going to communicate it? Is it going to be the lead educator? Is it the director? Is it the supervisor? How is it communicated? Is it through the app? Do you have a form that the family signs when they do the pickup? Do you make a phone call to the parents and go through it? So making sure that you understand, if you're an educator in this center, what the process is. And if you're the operator, having these clear procedures outlined for staff so they know exactly what to do. Emphasizing that parents should always hear about incidents from the team first and not discover them later. Sometimes we miss these things, but intentionally withholding this information from families is only going to deteriorate the trusting relationship. It's going to make parents feel uncomfortable with what's going on, maybe that they don't know if it's a safe environment for their child, and questioning the care that they're receiving. So going forward, making sure that you are communicating this with parents, that you really make a note to yourself if it is busy, that this gets communicated with the family before they go home, or in whatever process that you have outlined. And then making sure that however you do this, that there is the technology portion of it, if you're using an app, but that you also don't dismiss the face-to-face communication that maybe is needed with something, that if it's been a difficult incident, if there's been more of a serious accident at the center, and you want to make sure the parent really understands what happened, and feels safe and comforted that their child was well cared for in your center. So I'm going to pass this over, I think, to Wayne pretty soon here, but we will talk a little bit about communication tools, and directly with some of the features that ChildFriendly has. I wanted to put this here, that families receive both in-person and app-based communication report 23% higher engagement in their child's learning. So absolutely, if you can find something that works for your center that helps to kind of alleviate that communication burden, that all the admin that goes with that, and you can send communication on a regular, consistent way through an app or through a program, you're going to elevate the quality of your center, build that relationship with parents, and they'll know exactly what to expect from the care of their child every day with you. So I'll leave it to you, Wayne.
Awesome. Thanks, Crystal. I just wanted to touch briefly on some exciting communication updates that will be coming this month to our app. One big one is that parents will start receiving notifications through their app, and same with the centers. On the parent side, they'll receive notifications for instant messages, journals, incident and illness reports. On our app, the whole process is digitized, which is great. The parents will make the acknowledgement and sign digitally, and also receive notifications when it comes to incident and illness journals. They'll also receive notifications regarding billings as well. On the center side, they'll receive notifications for parents when parents update information in the app. They'll receive notifications for billings on all their expiries for their certifications, any supplemental fee programs with expiries, or government programs that are expiring as well as new registrations. Great. To the next slide. Great. We will also be launching our learning module. This is fantastic for communication. Now, staff will be able to add lessons and lesson plans that can be shared with parents. We will also be incorporating a calendar feature. This will allow you to, if you want to show scheduling for, meals for the month, you can do something like that, as well as daily progress reports that will integrate with the journals on our platform that you can just drag and drop into. And also, we're looking to improve. I don't have a slide for this one, but we're also looking to improve the user experience for parents that use our app. We're going to modernize it and make it much more intuitive and user-friendly for the parents as well. Great. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you, Wayne. I love the notification when you had the screenshot of it showing that there was an illness report waiting for them. I think, like, with the chaos of sometimes of the pickup and drop off time, having that notification so parents come into the center aware will also help for things getting missed, right? That's such a good feature. So that's pretty much it for the communication lunch and learn today. What we wanted to make sure we covered was how trust is built through consistent, empathetic, transparent communication, how small actions every day make such a big impact in that trust and relationship with families and with staff, how you can equip your team to communicate confidently, and how to use communication tools to an ongoing communication with parents. And yeah, I'll open it up if there's any questions that you guys might have, if there's any discussion, any scenarios that you want to run through before we wrap up for today. Happy to take any questions. Wayne is here too if you do want to have any conversations around maybe having a demo of the software to see what it can do for your center, or you have questions around some of the features that are coming out. Then I will wrap it up for today. We always want to leave you with some resources. So there's a few resources here if you have just general questions around childcare and licensing. We will see you on October 29th for our next Lunch and Learn. And if you have any topics that you want for one of these Lunch and Learns, that there's something that you really want to have some more discussion around and some input, feel free to reach out and send us an email. Most of these are built around topics that operators have sent us looking for some help with. So feel free to reach out and let us know what we can put together to support you. So thanks, Wayne, for your time today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.